Good afternoon. Welcome to SMACT's presentation on Oracle Business Intelligence transitioning to Oracle Analytics Cloud. My name is Peter Katrubis. I'm Executive Vice President of Customer Success. Got 19 years experience in data warehousing. And with me is my partner in success, Jay Gungwani, Senior Oracle BI Solution Architect and BI Practice Director. And he has 15 years experience in data warehousing and has been working with OBIEE since it was Siebel Analytics and OBIEE since it was in 11.1.170 through the current version. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about a little bit about SMACT. Then we're going to go into the learning objectives for today's discussion and then talk about the specifics of business considerations of transitioning from OBIEE to OAC. We're going to do a comparison of the feature functions of OBIEE to OAC. Then we're going to do a cost-benefit analysis. And then we'll go into an overview of OAC. And then Jay's going to walk us through the specific migration process and the detailed steps. Then we'll talk about takeaways and do any Q&A. Our experience with these products starts with projects at Cal State University System, where we built centralized data warehouses with Oracle BI applications, which intrinsically involves OBIEE and Oracle Data Integrator. And we did that across all 23 universities, both for HR analytics and financial analytics. Then we did projects with Florida International University, which, as you could see, is the fourth largest in terms of enrollment in the country. And that has to do with Oracle Business Intelligence, HR analytics, student analytics, and also a transition from OBIEE to OAC. At McMaster University, we did OBIEE, and then within the framework of OBIEE, built custom analytics for grants and projects. We also did a precursor to the implementation of OBIEE at University of South Carolina, where we did an expert install and built the roadmap for them in their transition from a custom data warehouse to Oracle BI applications, which is the pre-built analytics. We also did it for University of Texas System, which is a 13-university conglomerate. We did OBIEE in the student analytics, financial analytics, and HR analytics. And then we did some OBIEE specific projects with Indiana Public Retirement System. We did some OBIEE work at University of North Carolina. We did some fit gap analysis and proof of concepts for OBIEE and OBIEE at UTMB Health, Bellevue University with OBIEE, and Metro in Los Angeles for OBIEE. So we've got quite a bit of experience. This is kind of a select group of our clients in these product sets. Again, learning objectives and key takeaways for today are to learn how OBIEE compares to OAC, gain an overall understanding of OAC, including availability and uptime, data loading, and security, and then learn how to transition from OBIEE to OAC, where Jay's going to walk us through the specific steps, and then understanding why to choose OAC and learn the challenges with the product. When we look at cloud versus on-premise considerations, this would be applicable not only for transition from OBIEE on-premise, but also for any transition from on-premise applications to a cloud equivalent. But when you look at the capital versus an operational expense of OAC, it's a subscription model, so you can maximize cash flow. You're not having to do an investment in hardware and software with the ongoing licensing cost. It's just a subscription model, and pay and play, as we say. IT requirements, there's no extensive IT resources required when it comes to OAC. Certainly, as we get into talking about some of the setup and the administration, you're definitely going to need some resources. But when we look at OBIEE on-premise, since you have to manage all the hardware, and all the infrastructure behind OBIEE, it's a much more comprehensive in terms of the maintenance and the care and feeding, also the initial installation, setup, and configuration to get started. With utility costs, this was something that I hadn't considered early on until we got into doing cloud projects, was the per unit computing power, that cloud's cheaper overall. I know a lot of people are proud of their server rooms, and we love walking in the nice cold, ice cold server rooms, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of power consumption that goes along with that. There's a lot of heat generated. So when you look at the cost drain of, running servers, and then having all the, AC and things required to keep those servers at temperature so they don't fail, there's significant power consumption. And all that goes out of the window when you look at Oracle Analytics Cloud and software as a service. The software investment with OAC, software is provided as a subscription. All the upgrades and support are included in that subscription, versus with OBIEE, the company owns the software license. You also have to do the annual maintenance and all the fees that go along with it. Infrastructure investment with OAC, it only requires an internet connection. Well, there are some implications with that connectivity and the bandwidth, but other than that, you're not having to get involved with the setup and the backup and recovery and the processes. And we'll elaborate on that a little bit more, I think, on the next slide. With the deployment time frame with OAC, it's shorter because there's no infrastructure installation. Jay and I are going to talk a little bit about setup that's required. There's a little bit of setup that some people overlook when they're looking at OAC that's required. You don't want to rush into it. You want to take your time with that setup part, and Jay's going to touch on that. With OBIEE, it requires a lot of extensive server setup and installation and configuration. We've seen deployment times for OBIEE be delayed as much as 6 weeks, especially when you have an external service provider for the infrastructure, and meaning a hosted environment where the service level agreement could be 4 weeks or more just to get the environment set up. And that's not internal, that'd be external, let alone internally if you're having to manage it, depending on your resources, could be even longer than that. But with OAC, you get your subscription, and say with a week or two, with some considerations, you could have the environment set up and be off and running. Security and privacy, data can be kept in-house or it can be moved to an external server. It's a simple self-administration. Everything's auto-encrypted out of the box. We're going to talk a little bit, touch on a couple points there about it being the ability to turn it off if you'd like, but not recommended. Your data is kept in-house with OBIEE, and you own all the servers. So backup and recovery, this is automatic with OAC, and it's automatic full system backup and recovery, and you can turn this off, but again, there's a little bit of a note of caution with that capability. With OBIEE, there's additional costs for planning and discipline and execution, and what can't be overlooked is this word discipline, because often Jay and I find that while best intentions are there for these type of things with backup and recovery, with on-premise installations and setups and ecosystems, as we call them for OBIEE, often we lack the discipline to do those things properly. So it's really nice with OAC to have that automatic full system backup and restore. BI instances, there's no limit for the number of instances to have with OAC versus OBIEE. Same thing, no limits on the number of environments. With OAC, as far as advanced data visualization and mashups, with OAC, you get the latest with the DV toolset. We called it Tableau Killer when it first was released, and we think it has, equivalent to or even exceeds the capabilities of Tableau, which, as many of you know, is one of the industry-leading big data visualization tool sets. With OBIEE, DV has to be licensed separately. So again, that's just one big bonus that comes with OAC as that comes delivered with it. And again, as we know, or maybe you don't know, that with OAC or OBIE, you also get, the ability to create these metadata layers where Tableau is just fully for visualization. Now, when we look at the applications, OAC has the ability to create multiple business models. It's got a full version RPD. Same thing with OBIE. So pretty much the same comparison, except for OBIE, there's an offline Windows-based BI administration tool that you have to use. With the databases, OAC will support any number of databases and schemas, and the same thing with OBIE on-premise. With application size in OAC, Oracle database, there's no limit on the application size. With the OBIE on-premise, again, that's going to be determined by the customer's hardware. So big difference there. You're going to be limited by whatever physical boxes you have on the client side versus with the OAC, that consideration or limitation goes out the window. We see the same security for OAC and OBIE. This wasn't necessarily true when the product was first released. Actually, with BI Cloud Services specifically, before we combined BI Cloud Services with data visualizations and kind of relabeled everything Oracle Analytics Cloud Services. But all those considerations that we had early on working with the product sets have gone away. So we have a full equivalency with OBIE on-premise and OAC. Data integration, we see no difference between OAC and OBIE capabilities as far as that. You've got full access RPD, and it supports integration from every data source that we could think that you could possibly want, which we'll show a slide on that. We did a cost benefit analysis where we did a comparison of Oracle BI Foundation Suite with 25 users and perpetual licensing for 1 year support, which is approximately $50,000 plus $10,000 support every year. The thing to consider here is that Oracle's lifetime support policy when it comes to these products, and for year one, the support cost is paid as a part of your licensing up front when you purchase it. But for every year, for year 2 through 5, then there's a 5% uptick in terms of the licensing cost. And then once you get into extended support, there's a 10% cost for year 6 and a plus 20% for year 7 and plus 20% for year 8. So there's an escalation of the support costs with OBIE on-premise. Now, all these are based off the published prices for OBIE and Oracle BI Foundation Suite. So all that's fully negotiable, whether you're a commercial or private client. So again, for those of you looking at these numbers compared to what you have, you're going to see a variance because every customer is going to be different based on what you bundled together and what you negotiated with Oracle. And again, not even part of the cost we put up here is the consideration of OBIE on-premise, where you're going to have the hardware and infrastructure to support it. You're also going to have the resources that are required to do the development and pre-production costs. With Oracle Analytics Cloud, for the equivalent number of users, you're looking at about 19,200 total, or about 1,600 a month, based on $2.50 per Oracle CPU. With Oracle Analytics Cloud overview, the component, what comes with OAC is the business BI Cloud Services, or the business analytics, and the data visualization tool. Originally, this came with Essbase, but as you can see, we've crossed that out because in the ongoing releases of OAC, that component's been removed. But we didn't want to remiss in mentioning that it was originally bundled with that, and that changed in 2019. With Oracle Analytics Cloud Overview, again, comes with BI Cloud Services and data visualization services combined into Oracle Analytics Cloud Enterprise. So it's comprehensive capabilities for data visualization, analytics, creating all the metadata layer, and the modeling scenarios, and mobile. there is the ability to just license Oracle Analytics Cloud Professional, which basically just gives you the data visualization tool set. We used to publish the versions here, but in recent times, we haven't seen a reference to specific versions. I think the last one that we referenced was version 6, but the most recent update came out sometime mid-November, so not too long ago. What we're seeing in comparison, if I didn't mention it, is that with Oracle Analytics Cloud, we're seeing updates and feature functionality on a quarterly basis, whereas with OBIEE, those same changes or feature function updates, they are making their way into OBIEE, but that's only happening on an annual basis. There's extensible grammar and data visualization palettes, so you have a lot of different graph selections and a lot of different charts to pick from, and and color templates when you're creating data visualizations. So we see very robust capabilities within Oracle Analytics Cloud Services to create dynamic visualizations. Also, you have the ability with Smart Data Discovery to find hidden patterns in the data, and a lot of this stuff is automated, so that it takes some of that and automates it and will make recommendations for you instead of you having to ask the questions yourself. Again, there's a lot of ability here to use Smart Data Discovery to discover different information within your data sets, things that you might not even have thought automated using the tools functionality. This is the chart that outlines the different data sources that are available. Again, Jay and I looked at this, and we were pretty stretched to try to think of any additional data sets outside of all the traditional data stores, including the big data, NoSQL type database sources that you might want to bring data into the system from. So again, pretty extensive and comprehensive as far as we're concerned. Powerful in-data preparation. So this gives you the ability to do data cleansing. This gives you the ability to do joins within databases and everything that you'd want to do within the tool set, and also gives you the ability to extend it if you've got some developer resources and folks that can work with R and Python to even extend those beyond that. There used to be this pre-built role-based visualization content. So if you had licensed OAC early on, then you could still have the stuff and it'll still work, but it's no longer delivered with the product. A lot of this stuff is now delivered within the Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence for the cloud applications. You have to, building collective intelligence with day by day. These are, tool sets that you can download onto your phone. I'm going to let Jay talk a little bit about the easily extensible embeddable technology, and then kick off where we walk through the steps to doing the migration and implementation of OAC. Jay?
Thank you, Peter. So yes, OAC is pretty easily extendable, embeddable, just like any enterprise tool that's out there right now, except for the integrated AI ML pieces with OAC are very different. I guess that's cutting edge as far as what I've seen or what we've seen. You can create your own R and Python functions. You could train models. You could embed JavaScript with functions within a particular visualization versus functions that are available to all the users. There are also REST APIs that are available with OAC as an analytics platform that can grab data for you, that can provide functions for you. OAC availability, this is always a question that comes up since we're not managing the servers ourselves. OAC availability has been at a 99.95% uptime, and that is the service level objective that they work with. it's always available on a particular page. All of the OCI services, for that matter, are available for you to check to see the service health, the service uptime. But as you can see, the Oracle service level objective is also 99.99%, 99.9995%, sorry, uptime. So for maintenance, Oracle always provides at least a 2-week notification period for any updates, any downtime. The date and time can be changed via an SR to Oracle if set up within a certain amount of time. It's always pretty easy to change that schedule if it doesn't work with the business requirements. Is data migration to cloud necessary? So this is another question that comes up a lot when we present. Short answer, no. There are a lot of options available as far as data migration or access to the data on premise goes. Remote data gateway and private access channel are the two main recommended options. There are, of course, performance benefits to moving your data to the cloud using Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud, but that is not a necessity. Just a quick comparison between the two options. Remote data gateway, an agent is required, whereas for private access channel, an agent is not required. Although a little bit more setup is required for private access channel, that's not required for RDG. The agent connects to the on-prem database as far as RDG goes. So direct connectivity is not required. No firewalls need to be opened up. For private access channel, it is required because it uses VPN. Data source compatibility, I believe this is still pretty accurate as for the last time we checked. All data sources are available and compatible with RDG. Private access channel has a few data sources that are not compatible, like Oracle applications or Oracle ERP. RDG agent does require updates with every new dot version. I guess that would be more recommended approach to update the RDG version that's put out with every update that comes through for OAC. For private access channel, there's minimal updates that are required, if any, to the VPN software or the private access channel setup. OAC Classic support. So the version 1, I guess generation 1 of OAC was also called OAC Classic. RDG is supported on both OAC Gen 1 and Gen 2, but private access channel is only supported with the Gen 2 version of OAC or the Gen 2 hardware of OCI. So quickly talking about the data migration options that are available. Of course, there are other tools out there that would probably be able to do the same thing, but as far as Oracle goes, Oracle Data Sync, Oracle Data Integrator, ODI, or ODI Cloud Service, some of the best options available. As far as some other options, SQL Developer, Golden Gate, there is a Oracle Database Migration Services to lift and shift the whole database also. So those are the main options that are available for us. OAC security. Role-based access, just as the on-prem version is available. It provides robust security. If you want to have role-level security, that is definitely available with the role-based access. It's built on Oracle's IDM platform called IDCS. Identity management is definitely part of the common services layer and secured with Oracle Public Cloud. And that is the step before we even get to the IDCS piece. It consists of LDAP-based identity store and single sign-on, which works in addition to IDCS, or I guess in contact with IDCS. And row-level security, like we said, is available via application roles. The steps for migration. So these are some of the assumptions that we keep in mind while providing these steps for migration. OAC service should have been created on OCI according to the predetermined size and the resource needs based on your on-prem setup and structure, the number of reports, so on and so forth, the number of users. Users and groups migrated to OCI already. The options available are to create users and groups manually, to bulk import users and groups, to sync existing identity store like AD through a bridge, the software for which is provided by Oracle, and to use appropriate OIM connector, Oracle Identity Management Connector. Ideally, we always recommend to delete or archive the old and not useful content within the catalog, the RPD, so on and so forth, to control the size of the migration, especially if we're also migrating the data. Backups taken on source, the OBIEE on-prem, and on the target with OAC. The steps, and these are the high-level steps, export content from OBIEE on-prem. If you're working with OBIEE 11G, you would just download the BIEE 11G migration utility from your OAC instance on the snapshots page and use it to export the content as a jar file. If you're working with OBIEE 12C, you're probably already familiar with the export archive. You would just use the WebLogic scripting tool command to export the content as a bar file. Import the content into OAC. So similar to the export, for the import for OBIEE 11G, there's an upload and restore option available on the same snapshots page. For OBIEE 12C, you would just upload the bar file that was downloaded into OAC. Download and use the latest version of the model administration tool, as most developers call the administration tool, which you use to edit and work on the RPD. You would need to make the connection port updates depending on what you're trying to use for your database, whether it be RDG or PAC, or whether you're going to the cloud with the data. Deploy the latest version of the RPD to OAC. Again, from the snapshots page, you would just, once all the updates are made, you would deploy the latest version to OAC. And then, of course, you would have to turn on all your agent schedules that you would have created on-prem. That's not something that the migration utilities would do for you. And then test everything in OAC to make sure that the migration was successful. Implementation and roadmap. So this is the roadmap that we recommend over our multiple migrations that we've conducted. This is what we've come up with to be the best method for anyone starting out. Start with the hybrid model. Only move the recent or summary reports and the data you keep on premise. Evaluate the features, stability, and the user acceptance. Mirror a subset of data. So once we have the user acceptance, we would mirror a subset of data to the cloud database or to Autonomous Data Warehouse Cloud. And then once we feel comfortable, we would do a full data migration, an OBIEE lift and shift using the snapshots, the migration that we talked about in the prior slide, and then also a full ETL migration to move everything to the cloud. Gotcha. So these were just a couple of the gotchas that we found so far. Oracle is actively working on making changes to the platform to allow for these to change. Oracle DB does not still have agents for scheduling reports, although OAC does provide the classic side. If you do want to keep your agents, at least for the time being, you could using the classic side. Oracle DB does not also have Excel export, a formatted Excel export. It does, however, provide a CSV export at this point. So I think I'm going to pass this back to Peter on this one.
So the big question is, what are the barriers to full migration from OBIEE on-premise? And when we first started presenting on BI cloud services and before it transitioned to OAC, and then when it initially transitioned to OAC, which again is the combination of BI cloud services and data visualization, there were a lot of things that we had listed here. But with the current release and the release for the last few years, we really see no barriers to migration. So we think when you look at the cost benefit analysis, there's a compelling story and a compelling reasoning to make this transition. And I think we recommend it. In our evaluation of OAC, it functions as advertised. There's a small learning curve for experienced OBIEE developers. Some of that learning curve has to do with the initial setup and configuration of the cloud environments before you get started. No learning curve for existing OBIEE users in terms of DV or using mashups. Drastic reduction in BI deployment timeframes. And then we see performance stability and support to be improved compared to OBIEE on-premise. Now, Jay, since we're doing this as a recorded presentation, I wanted to ask you a couple questions. One would be, what are your recommendations in terms of where to start when cleaning up the data before doing data migration, as you suggested?
So I think the best place to start normally has been to look at the most used reports. There's a lot of times that we've seen a lot of data that's sitting out there and people don't really care for it, whether it be data that's too old at this point and it's not being used for trending, whether it be data for subject areas that have been created for a group of customers or a department that are not being used. I think that the best place to start is look at the usage or the usage tracking reports to see which reports are being used, which queries are being ran the most, and determine based on that to see where some cuts can be made.
Okay, and I'll add to that that the one thing and the exception to using the usage reports that we found is that sometimes it's pretty critical reports that only run once a quarter or once a year for financial close. So I think that also balancing that against the business users before you make those final decisions is also beneficial. But definitely usage is the place to start. What do you see as the some of the recommendations you have, as I alluded to in the initial setup and configuration of those cloud environments before you get started with OAC, Jay?
So I think the best place, again, like we mentioned already, we would be starting with looking at your current environment and seeing where cuts might be needed. As far as sizing goes, as far as the number of users goes, you would always want to look at your current environment to determine how to size or resource the new OAC instances. OAC in general works, I guess, performs a little bit better if I'm going to make a general statement. But then again, you would still want to see if the right OCPUs are assigned to the instance.
Okay, and I wanted to mention and ask a question too, that with the agents specifically, we really have only run into a very unique circumstance in which the use of agents and that capability lacking in OAC. It was a relatively unique instance to where we don't see that as something that's even a concern at all for most clients.
Right, yeah. So agents are still, agents still do exist for the classic side. It's just the people who would like to get data visualizations, or I guess the DB workbooks in their email, or whether it be FTP, so on and so forth, that might struggle to a certain extent. But classic side still has the classic view of OAC, or OBIEE, still exists in OAC and still has agents running there.
And Jay, we didn't get into in our presentation the typical timeline for implementation or resource requirements, because I think we both agree it varies by customer. But do you have a general idea in terms of what you think a kind of a median time frame for implementing OAC and migrating from OBIEE on premise to the cloud might look like?
I think, again, like you mentioned, it would depend on what you're trying to migrate or the size of the objects we're trying to migrate, the size of data that we're trying to migrate. But at a minimum, I guess if a lot of the pre-work is already done as far as figuring out what needs to be done or what needs to be migrated, I think we can do it within a month.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Well, for everybody that's taken the time to view our webinar, your time's greatly appreciated. We pride ourselves on making and being available to have these discussions one-on-one with individual customers that are considering this transition. OAC gets our highest recommendations, and please feel free to reach out to us with any questions or concerns you may have. And we're always happy again to have an audience with you and discuss our experience with these products. Thank you very much.
Thank you.